Hello, my name is Victoria, the Automaton. Unlike my sister Florence with her small head and preoccupation with tea, my head is much larger and has room for machinery inside. The machines allow my eyelids to open and close and my eyes to look around. As with Florence, I can move my head right and left, and I can look up and down. Now I need a valuable job, hopefully one that has little to do with tea. Perhaps I could host a quiz. Thank you for watching.
Well, I was just about to connect Victoria up to the Arduino when I sold out the last of the kraken gauge kits. One of these that I can construct for you, or comes with all the parts necessary for you to construct your own. Either battery power with a little battery pack like that that'll run for days on 2AA batteries, or a small circuit to run it from 4.5 to 12 volts. There's that version, or there's the decorative version, that is a small version of a smaller one, or there's the larger steam head gauge, or the T gauge, and there are a few others as well. But I love putting together kits. As you can hear, the 3D printer's going again. I've managed to print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 so far, and print all the pulleys and lovely things, the exciting bits, that's something else, and cut out the laser cutter, the gears and the pointers. And the first one that was ordered from the new set was one that was already assembled, so what I thought I'd do is to assemble 2 of them so they can all be painted up and everything else together. So I've assembled these bits, glued them together already, peeled off the protective surround from the engraved front part. I'm going to spray all that up with brass in a minute. And last night, after I received the order, I assembled 2 of the pointers and sprayed them up with the satin black to give them time to dry, and also 2 of the gears with silver, because the silver does take a long time to dry. So I thought I'd do that last night so I can speedily get on with the rest of it today. So it's all very exciting. I'm going to quickly get these kits done, and then I can get on with Victoria. I want to get her moving and animated. Brilliant. As with all the decorative gauges, they're photographic reproductions from original models that I made, so I could light them really nicely. So there's the kraken, there's the T gauge, rounded readout on, the steam head one, which was an original idea. I wanted it to actually move using lenticular lenses, but it didn't work very well. Project for the future. Foot candles, with room for the complicated mechanism behind, and potential with a nice little mechanism behind it. Right, the next 2 kits are fully assembled. I've got one that needs to be dispatched straight away, and another one just in reserve in case I get another order for an assembled one. Now I've just come to start wiring up Victoria, just checking inside her head to set the limit switch on her looking up and down with the joys of spring, and found out in fact a spring has broken. When I was going on about how easy having these lines made putting the neck shaft in, I was shoving and pushing it, and I've now realised the little micro switch inside the neck, I've somehow managed to break the spring off the top. Ridiculous. So that's why I was having such difficulty pushing this in. So I'm going to have to take it all to bits again, or at least that bit, and replace the micro switch. I just want to get on with it. Sure enough, there's a springless micro switch. So I replaced that. There's the spring that I must have shoved off and broken sideways. So another part of the learning curve. I'll remove that and replace it. Great news! The delivery of a recent RS order had gone to the wrong place. Lane and Avenue, easy mistake to make. So I've finally got, because I went to pick it up from them, an Arduino Mega. Because if you think back to Florence, Is It Time for Tea Machine, if I usually start with an Arduino Uno, which has got, I can't remember how many pins, but not that many. And I know from experience, something like this, in fact practically every project that I end up doing ends up requiring far more ins and outs. And the Arduino Mega has got loads and loads of them. There's the Mega. They work in almost the same way. You plug the Mega in, or the Arduino, with the USB wire to the computer, and the Integrated Development Environment IDE that you can download free works with either. Just tell it which model you're using. The good thing about the Mega also is it has a load more memory, because it uses the next Atmel, I think it is, chip up. There's the one that the Arduino uses. Here's the one that the Mega Uno uses. Here's the Mega version. So that's great. I've got the new micro switch installed, so I'll put the neck back together, get all the wires, all the nice colourful spaghetti connected up, and see what we can get Victoria to do. I can't remember where I've got to, but I've been doing some more work on Victoria, and I've got her wired up. There's her speech mouth controller. Also added a couple of lead weights in the back. They're only just hung over at the moment, but because I've got proper bearings supporting her head like that, they can take a lot of force. And if I balance, because most of her head is obviously sticking forward because the pivot point is back here behind her ear, so it's a lot of mass, a lot of weight on the front pulling down, which is putting force on the motor and the gears that drive it. So by adding a counterweight on the back, that will help to allow it all to work more efficiently. I ordered one of these MP3 playback modules from Adafruit on which to record her voice. This one, because the one I used before had on-chip memory and it would only hold a limited amount. It was okay for everything that Florence needed to say, but I was aware that the files had to be really compressed in mono to get everything to fit. This type has an SD card slot in it, so you can store as much as you want on the SD card, and then this will play it back, controlled by the Arduino, but leaving the Arduino processor free to do other stuff. The only thing is, when I came to wire this up, I found that actually the number of connections that you have to make from this soundboard to the Arduino is quite a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 7 or 8. Now, as you know, as I remember saying this, I am now using a Mega, which has got lots of outputs and inputs, but I don't want to risk using 7 pins, 7 connections to control this audio player. Also, it suggests that to operate, the Arduino reads data off the SD card and then sends it back into this to be processed into audio. Now that seems to me that it's going to potentially use an awful lot of processing power up, which I may need to be controlling other stuff. So I've gone ahead and ordered, as someone very kindly suggested and pointed out while I was doing Florence, Is It Time for Tea Machine, that you can get a much simpler, smaller MP3 player board with an SD card slot in it that only needs 2 connections for controlling by an Arduino. So I've gone ahead and ordered that. So in order to see how she works at the moment, I'm going to press play on the laptop to start the audio going and see whether I can get it lined up with the movements that I'll program into the Arduino. So we'll give that a go.
Hello, my name is Victoria, the Automaton. Unlike my sister Florence with her small head and preoccupation with tea, my head is much larger and has room for machinery inside. The machines allow my eyelids to open and close and my eyes to look around. As with Florence, I can move my head right and left. And I can look up and down. Now, I need a valuable job, hopefully one that has little to do with tea.
So luckily, while I'm waiting for the MP3 player to arrive, I sold another of the chronograph clocks. And that's brilliant because that means it's time to make another 10. Fabulous. Never a dull moment. Now the chronograph clock, one of my earlier designs. The reason for it being I wanted to make a far more affordable steampunk machine than the wall-mounted barometric prognosticator and scribulator and things. So I thought, keep it simple. That's what I always start by saying. Nice and simple. Needless to say, it ended up with, I think it's 90 parts. But then I just can't help myself. If I've got an idea and I just think this is going to look really good, I just cannot cut corners. So there's the little copper pressure cylinder, there's the de facto piece of coiled copper pipe, real copper I hasten to add. You read the minutes off this dial, and there's one of the lovely little red sparklies, and you read the hours off this dial. And it's got real ball chain and bearings and what looks to be a spring, coil spring there with a little copper bit. It's just, I mean, I think it looks really nice. As I say, I couldn't, once I'd started, I just couldn't stop, couldn't think, oh, that'll do. Each background individually engraved and numbered, which is nice little touch. And I was really pleased when I came up with this idea because prior to that I'd been making backgrounds from really large chunky bits of wood, and then I realised I could in fact use some of this laser cut ply, and it worked a treat, as you can see. But I wanted to get it all out of one of the sheets that fit on the laser cutter. I put jigsaw corners on to hold it all together, and 3 layers of it mean that it gives the impression of having a really nice rebated twiddly doodah bit on it. Also the pendulum, I was very pleased with that. That was another labour of love. I was so impressed years ago when I learnt about how the Victorians had invented the mercury compensated pendulum, because the problem up until that point was pendulums obviously dictate or define the how long each second is, and in hot weather they would expand and therefore become longer, and time would slow down in effect, and in cold weather they would shrink, contract, and then they'd speed up. Obviously no good. So very cleverly came up with an idea of having a tube of mercury in the centre, amongst other methods for achieving this. But that means as the temperature increases and the pendulum gets longer, the mercury also expands and goes back up, moves up the tube to compensate for the increase in length. I tell you, it's so difficult to actually work out how to get the look of a column of mercury in there, but I managed in the end. Oh yes. And this clock, you can either have it wall mounted, move it back a bit, either have it wall mounted, or I can sell it with a stand like this, so you can turn it into a mantle clock. If memory serves, I'm going to stain the pieces of laser cut ply first, because that makes it far easier, and then cut them out on the laser cutter. Let's get that done. This is interesting. I've cut out the next 2 chronograph bases, the wooden parts. There's number 13, unlucky for some, and number 12. And what I've noticed recently over the past few weeks is when I cut out wood, the further over to the right and downwards I get, well, just actually the further over to the right, I get this shadowing, and I couldn't figure out what it was, but I assume that it's probably, well, it may be something to do with the mirrors on the laser cutter. There's a mirror housing there, so the laser shines out through a hole there, hits that, and then bounces along to there. And there's another mirror housing there. And I took both the mirrors out because I haven't ever done that before, and they were pretty filthy, and I could see, especially on this mirror, that there was, my hand gone, there was a little speck which I think is where the laser has been hitting it repeatedly. And I thought, well, I'll take it out, clean it with isopropyl alcohol, put it back in because the front unscrewed, so I shouldn't then have mucked up the alignment. But, dear friends, I have mucked up the alignment. If I move this out of the way, it's cutting out number 14 and number 15, and you can see that my actions have completely taken the laser out of alignment. So what I'm doing now is thinking, oh my godfathers, we're in lockdown, I've now got a laser cutter that doesn't work, but no, I'm not going to do that, I'm going to pursue it. And I remember the man from HPC Laser who set it up for me stuck something over this last mirror, and I'm using a bit of masking tape, and then fired a shot of laser. And the nice thing is that this laser, and I'm sure loads of them do, they have a laser button which sends one pulse through the laser. So I've stuck the thing over, and I saw the first one I did was right way off at the top, and now I'm fiddling around slowly adjusting the screws, the adjustment screws on this mirror holder, and I'm getting better, it's getting closer. Don't panic, you can see the last one is pretty well centered, so I'm going to keep doing that. Whatever the name, I'm sure is a proper name for it, not where the laser comes out. So I put a bit of masking tape on there. I can see the edge of where the beam is meant to go through, and I think it's right to assume it's meant to go through the center. I'll shut the lid because there's the safety interlock, and then I'm not going to look because I've got it well out of the way. But let's press the laser button. Set fire to it. A new use. Oh, Bennett, well that's not bad at all actually. I hadn't managed to get it to actually light the tape on fire, but it has this time. That looks pretty good. A little bit to the left perhaps. I'll give it a go and get back to you. I tell you what, that is pretty much, I think that's as good as I'm going to get it. That's right in the centre. So I'll try and lock the adjusting screws that are on the back of that. Let's move this into view. I'm going to try and lock the adjusting screws without adjusting this. You can see there's a spring tensioner on the back that takes up any slack, so I'm going to try and adjust there, try and lock them into place and test it again. Well, and there's the usefully labelled hole that the laser comes out of. Success, I think. I've just drawn, having lined up both and tested both mirrors for ages, just cut a little circle out the corner, a spare bit of this ply, and it's cut perfectly and seems to be far better focused. I think it might have been going out of alignment or whatever for some time. That's really exciting. So now I need to line it all up with that and see what we can achieve. Here's the design on the computer, and you can see I don't waste much material, so I've got to try and figure out, and obviously now I need to change the engravings to 16 and 17. Who thought of that ridiculous idea? Well, this is the real test. I've managed to align it with the cut that I started with the first engraving, chronograph number 14, and and we'll see how it goes. So far, so good. Seems to be cutting perfectly, which is really exciting because it means that I've still got a laser cutter and I've managed to get it working again. And hopefully, oh yes, yes. If we zoom in over there, look at that, there's no shadowing, there's none of those double lines. That's fantastic. So it must have been dirty mirrors or mirrors slightly out of alignment. That is brilliant. I'm so pleased. Another moment of truth. Is this going? Yes, things have cut out. I had to stick this down because, as I've said in a previous video, the laser cutting ply, everyone who supplies it says it is not guaranteed to be flat. Warping is a really big problem. Ooh. That, I can't tell you how pleased I am about that, because I've gone from having a defunct laser cutter, or one that printed double lines, to having one. Look at that. Yes, that's what we need.
Thank you for watching.